Hello and welcome to Main Street, East Hampton. This kind of kicks off the season a little bit early, but we're here at the drop-off for the 73rd Annual Artist Members Exhibition, and it's right here at Guildhall, our cultural center. And we are going to be having our opening reception Saturday, May 7th from 4 to 6, and it will be on view through June 11th. Here's the card that many of you are receiving, and we hope that you will all join us. And you're in for a treat because it's open to anybody who's a member of Guildhall, near and far. So do come and tune in to hear inside how we're going to meet the curator and the organizer and the executive director of Guildhall. Stay tuned. So most of the work has already arrived and we'll give you a little preview. It's all over the floors of the galleries that it will be beautifully hung, where it will be beautifully hung, by Christina, who is here with us. Come on over, Christina Strasfield. Today, we don't know who are going to be the prize winners at this show, but that's always a great unveiling.
Absolutely. And we unveil it the day of the opening, and Deborah Cullen, who is the museum director at Museo del Barrio in the city, is the awards judge this year. And we're so thrilled to have her because she has just curated some amazing shows, the Rafael Ferrer show, the Nexus show, and the current transition shows, which have just received great reviews. And she's a wonderful eye, so I'm looking forward to her selections.
Wow. And does she specialize in any particular type of art?
I don't believe so, because I think she really has a varied background, and she has curated shows of paintings and sculpture and actually happenings, so a real mixture.
That's so important for you to find someone with that across-the-board taste. Otherwise, I think having one person jury a show or give the awards can be tricky. Don't you think so?
Actually, I really like it when one person chooses, because I've been on the other side. And when you're jurying, usually with 2 or 3 people, what happens is it ends up being a compromise. So what we like to do is get one professional every year in a different background, from different museums or from galleries, or an art critic, and we really respect their opinion, but we let them choose exactly who they feel should get the prize.
Yeah. I think that's wonderful. I've also been on juries of art shows, and it can be a bit of a compromise. You're absolutely right. So tell us, how many years has this been going on?
This is going to be the 73rd year, so it's really such a community event. We're thrilled. Our board is very supportive. Our museum committee is very supportive of the fact that we do this for the community, for all of our wonderful artists, and artists of every level participate. So we are really blessed to have that, because they're showing their support for Guildhall as we support them by leaving time in our schedule to allow this great exhibition.
Yeah, and that has never changed in 73 years. Amazing. Do you have a lot of information on the first few shows?
You know, we don't have a lot on the first few shows. I think I would say from maybe the 50s on, we have more information of who the winners were. I think it's been more documented from that point forward. Mm-hmm. But it's always exciting to see, because artists like Zacharias won twice. So we get that history of who was there, who participated, and it's really a who's who of the Hamptons.
Oh, it sure is. And Zacharias, he's one of my favorite people out here. He's a great guy. Is he in it again?
He is. So we're looking forward to having him see the work.
Could be 3 times Zacharias. Just you wait. That's exciting. This is Mary Stubelek. And she is a wonderful artist and an old friend of mine, or a young friend of mine, but we've been friends for a long time. Great to see you here.
Be here.
Do you enter this show every year?
Yes, pretty much.
Great.
I'm covering for myself and Mary Ellen Doyle, who also has been entering since the 70s.
Wonderful. So it's a tradition you wouldn't want to miss.
Well, it's to support the artists.
Yeah.
It's not just the competition, it's to show camaraderie.
I love that. Yeah. That is what it's about, isn't it? Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I love living in the Hamptons is the community of artists. There's just so much affection among us, I think, and very little competition. Most people are rooting for each other, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. The work is important. It's important to find support for the work. And I think the Guildhall, of all the institutions out here, the Guildhall is by far the most supportive.
Thanks to Christina and Ruth and all of you that work on this.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we owe a deep gratitude to them.
Yes, absolutely. Where would we be without Guildhall, right? Thanks for letting me grab you on your way out the door. I'm surrounded by art right now. It's like so exciting. It's all over us. Is this open to all ages?
18 years and older. And that's because we want to make sure that the artist is a mature artist in the sense that if they were to win, because the top prize winner gets a one-person show. So at least if they're 18, you hope that they have some body of work that we can work with them on in that year and a half until their show comes up. So we would not want to deny anybody that opportunity.
And which space is designated for the winners?
At this point, with Drew Shiflett's show, it will be the Spiga Gallery. From now on, that will be the one gallery that is going to be determined for the member show winner. Frank Wimberly will be Frank Wimberly will be following Drew. So we've had the last shows in the main gallery.
Yeah. So it's a change then.
It is a change.
Yes. And that gallery seems like a manageable space for someone caught a little off guard by a phone call. Okay, there's so many feet of space. There's 4 walls, interrupted walls. And in a year and a half, even producing all new work, most artists could fill that, who are truly professionals, fill that requirement. I think that's not too overwhelming, but wonderful. In fact, many artists probably could fill 5 of those.
I think it happens. There are certain artists who really do have a huge body of work and really want to, but I think that it's much more manageable for us, and given our limited exhibition time slots, I think it's so wonderful that we can offer a one-person show in a unique space, and we work with the artists very closely to make it the best show.
And you give them an opening,
Oh, absolutely.
an
Opening,
exhibition catalog of some sort.
card, and yes. Yes.
Wow. That's a big thing. That's fantastic. It probably zooms people off on their careers. Plus, those 99.9% of people who aren't going to get a show are coming to a great party, are going to be here with their fellow artists, have another line on their resume in a museum. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And many artists get their start with this. This is how they learn how these things work, correct?
I think so. I think the whole process of being part of a show, understanding the commitment that you're making to the museum, that the museum is making to you, is very important. People who've won various prizes and who've won the top honor have gone on to be picked up by local galleries and other galleries, so that's been important for them. It's given them entree into other group shows and to collectors. We have a lot of people from galleries in the city, from galleries out here, who really look for new artists, artists who they weren't familiar with. And so they'll walk around the show and they'll look very, very carefully. They'll ask for the resume. They'll ask our opinion. Do you know more about this artist? So it's really an exciting time for an artist to have exposure.
Yeah.
And artists all need exposure. As you were saying, you work in your studio, you're committed to your work, but your work has to get out there. And this is the perfect venue for it to get out there to the public, to collectors. During the opening, we tend to sell, I would say 10 to 13, 10 to 15 works right at that opening, because it's an exciting time. People see it, they want to buy the best in show, they want to buy some of the prize winners, and then they just want to look around and pick up a nice work.
As you are curating and hanging, I don't mean really curating in this sense, but do you try to put together photographs or watercolors or pastels, or do you do it more by color, or how do you do
No,
that?
I don't specifically put all photographs or whatever. I really try to do it not just color. It really is form and a mixture of all different things, because sometimes you can get a wonderful black and white photograph next to a beautiful, very colorful painting, and it can work, and other times it can't. So it has to be the form within either one of those works having a relationship together, or sometimes it is the color, but it really varies. It really does.
Right.
You know,
It's
it's
a
never just,
feeling.
it's a feeling. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It really
You're not kidding. It's like when you're painting and someone said, well, what color did you use? How did you mix that? I don't know. You just did it, you know, and you can't articulate it really.
For instance, I was looking at these particular pieces when I came in, and I just loved this one in the back.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
the artist is Sheila Rutner, and the piece is made with resin. And I thought it was just an amazing, the textural quality to that. And then this one by Liz Bruno, was very flat. So I love the difference, but yet the colors are very similar. So it worked in that sense where the color palette was working and it was playing off of one another. So I thought that was a wonderful pairing. So I was hoping that I could keep that, and then I would find something else to make it flow together. It's interesting that the piece right over here is by Jane Martin, who won a few years ago. And again, I love hers. She uses resin coating on top of her photographs.
She is a marvelous
She's
artist.
a great artist, and it's wonderful to see that relationship with the resin on her photograph, with this piece with the resin next to it. And this one I just happened to pull together again because it had similar colors. So I don't know if it's going to stay exactly like this, but sort of this was a mixture. So the idea of texture and form and color and materials used happened to make these four actually a grouping that might stay together. You know, it'll have to work, and we'll have to see what comes next. And these were then just put down, but these four I had to.
I'm feeling it. It
And
works.
It does.
for me
It does.
too.
It really does. And
Yeah.
you play, and then next to it maybe something else that's a little different, a beautiful watercolor, a beautiful collage. That will have to play as we go, as more pieces come in. We'll do little pairings, put them together, anchor walls, and then work around that to create the flow so that it really does work.
I think you're getting me interested in your job. I love this process. I would be excited to come into work and do this. I think this is so creative.
It's one of the most challenging exhibitions to hang, but it really is one of the most fun exhibitions to hang. Because I love it, because at times when I'm doing it, I really don't like to look at the names. I just want to look at the work. I want to focus on the work, focus on the placement of it, have it have that energy, have it have that flow. And then it's oftentimes I'll go back and I'm like, oh my gosh, is that artist? If they're doing something a little different that I wasn't used to seeing, that's exciting. Looking at it just closely for the object itself, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, don't look at the name, don't look at anything else.
Exactly.
Just look at the work.
Right.
Let the work speak for itself.
That's for sure. And I'm noticing down here, there's a very touching piece, Miss You, Buddy Joe.
And that's by Diane Tepper. She's an amazing photographer who lives in the city and in Montauk. And she's been in the show several years, and her work really is quite wonderful. Really, she captures city scenes. She's a wonderful photographer, a portrait photographer as well. Just very, very, very talented. And when that came in, I thought, great piece. And then right next to it is this piece, which it's part of it has the ceramic underlayer. And then the mesh, and the artist was describing it and saying that the reflection of the light through the mesh is part of the piece. So this will be a little bit of a challenge to hang, but I think it will be really exciting to see how that works with the reflection on the light. Yeah. And then not maybe paired to it, but look at this beautiful drawing. Yeah. I mean, black and white pencil drawing, just fabulous. I mean, look at the cow. I just love it. I mean, it's just fantastic. The wrinkles and the eye and the whole form next to something just as beautiful. An amazing watercolor. Isn't that something?
Oh, my friend Jory Latham. Yes.
Just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Quality, technique, style, fascinating. Another one of my favorite artists, Phil Curiasis.
Oh, yes, he's a dear friend.
Done this.
Yes, I love this.
He's been working for a while now with photographs of his relatives from Greece. So I'm Greek, so I can relate to it. And then, so I've seen these kind of photographs many times in my life. And then he has the quotation in Greek on the top and the translation. And it says, if you listen, you become wise. If you only talk, you'll regret it. And, I remember my mom saying something very similar. So those sentiments,
That is fantastic. Now, that really touches me. And I've been watching his work about his ancestors. But that saying, I often think about that myself, that people who interrupt everybody all the time, they're not going to learn what the other person really has to say. And we're in a culture of interrupting. So now that I interrupted you,
Right? No, absolutely, but he's
I'm
a
trying to listen
wonderful
to every word
artist.
you say, and I'm learning.
Such a wonderful artist, and I think he's done a lot of different things, and I think this whole series, I think, is just wonderful. He exhibited, I think about a year and a half ago at Asheville Hall, did a whole series of them, and I thought they had a lot of meaning and a lot of depth to them, and I appreciated that, and yet as an artwork on a form, you could just enjoy just the visual image as well. So kind of wonderful. And his wife's work, Mary Ansack, is right next to it.
Oh,
So
who's a
just
dear
perfect.
friend, yeah.
Great.
And she teaches in the high school.
And I have to tell you that
East Hampton High School.
East Hampton High School, some of the most amazing work came in by her students. I think the whole East Hampton School District, the work was just phenomenal. I mean, the teachers, from painting to drawing to three-dimensional design to the craft work, was just a testament, a real testament to our time, because the budgets are being cut, unfortunately, and these artists, teaching artists, are giving their all and imparting their wisdom and their knowledge to these students, and the students are really very talented. I think we live in that kind of community, that the artwork must be in the water out there.
I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to introduce Michelle Clays, head of the Ross School, to Ruth Applehoff. I arranged for a luncheon for them to meet, and it was during your exhibition of the students' work here. And so they were both going on and on about that mesh in the community of all the schools due to this show that you do. It's one of the few places all the schools meet up, and we see the talent all over this large community made up of, 6 communities.
Right. It's fantastic to see the young students come in, seeing their artwork in a museum, looking at it, saying, this is mine, and this really will affect their whole life. I mean, who knows? They can become collectors, they become artists, they can become patrons of the arts. That's what we want, patrons of the arts, to support museums going forward for the 21st century.
Usually I don't talk about my own children, but my daughter won first prize in photography in a student show when she was a senior in high school, and she just graduated from college. That gave her the confidence to major in studio arts. She's now a photographer on staff at Time Out New York, and it is largely because of the great support of the arts in this community, how much opportunity there is to explore it, and how young people see that their parents can be celebrated for merely being artists,
I think it's just a wonderful testament for all of the students, for all of the teachers, for all of the artists. I think we're such a, as you were saying, a community that celebrates the arts on every level, be it performing arts, being visual arts, poetry, writing, and it's important. It's so important, and it's important that institutions such as Guildhall maintain that integrity to celebrate what is important. Other things are important, I'm not going to deny it, but the arts are equally as important.
Right. I was thrilled to see you're doing, I think for one of the first times, you have a friend of mine who's a singing teacher, Marianne Kerner, teaching how to sing for the next couple of months here at Guildhall. And I thought, wow, see, there we go. It's all the arts, as you say. And I spotted Ruth Applehoff. We'll try to lasso her too. She's the director of executive director of Guildhall. And would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the other events coming up?
Yes, I'd love to. On Saturday, June 4th, we're going to have at 1 p.m. a Meet the Winners, and that's going to be run by Michelle Klein, who organizes this show. She's the person behind the scenes who actually takes all of the registration and gets everything coordinated so it all comes together. So she's a real powerhouse. And she will walk around with all the winners and talk to them a little bit and allow them to describe their piece, their style of work, their artistic statement. It's a wonderful opportunity for people to learn about the artist and to experience the artist firsthand.
And what an honor for those artists to have that chance to introduce themselves and their life's work to the community.
That's right. And we also have on Saturday, June 11th, there's a website designed for artists. Now, artists really need to get their work out on a website if they can. And the person who will be talking about this will really be giving you hints and advice on how to really do your own website so it doesn't cost too much money, but you can still get your artwork out there so that the greater community knows what you're doing and you're not working again in isolation.
I must say, one of the first questions we artists are asked is, oh, what's your website? And as you know, it's quite expensive to hire someone to do that. So many artists do not have that, or they rely on their dealer to promote their work. But there's nothing like self-promotion, right?
It really, I always tell artists, you have to have a business card, you have to hand it out, and have a picture of your work on that card, and let people know, you can see more of my work. Because sometimes collectors and your average person might be a little nervous about coming to the studio. They don't know what that entails. They may feel that they have to buy something right away. Well, if you have a website, they can go on the website, they can look at it, they can see what the body of your work looks like. You can put prices on your website, you could just put your background, and I think it makes it more accessible for the general public, and also for collectors and for museum professionals who are looking to put group shows together or put individual shows together. If you have a website and you see a beautiful body of work there, I think that a person, it's easier. I mean, I still accept slides, I still accept hardbound materials, but I must admit that a website is much easier because I can look at it several times. It can be updated. If you have new work, you can pop it right there. I can refer to it several times. I can tell someone else, I think this artist is good, maybe you could use them in a show. So it's a wonderful tool,
That's marvelous. And I look at a lot of websites, and it's very interesting to see the variety of them and how some of them are done so that they really enhance the artist's work. And many, though, I find are really not helping the artist that much. So this workshop is going to be very, very helpful. I mean, I'm excited about that. I want to come.
Oh, good. No, I think it is something, because an artist has to know that you can't put every single image that you've ever done in your life. You have to categorize, you have to organize it, and so we will be giving helpful hints. And as a curator, I'm happy to talk to them also about what I like in a website and what I don't like.
Yeah.
Because I think there are certain things, as you said, it doesn't always help the artist to have a website if it's just a jumbled mess.
Oh, yeah.
It really has to be organized in a very easy to use and easy to maneuver.
What do you look like when you go? What do you look for when you go to an artist studio? Is there something that turns you off, or something that turns you on? That as a curator, every artist wants to know this.
Oh, that's a good question. I think that when I'm asked to do a studio visit, I always ask to see material ahead of time, and that's because I want to really make sure that the artist has a body of work that they can show me. When I come to a studio visit, I think that people have to realize that I can't spend the whole day there. I think some artists think that you're going to look at every single piece of artwork that they've created. So you have to realize that I'm probably going to be there for an hour and a half. That's probably my limit at that point. So prepare pieces of work that you want me to see. If you can lay them out, that's great. If you can't, if we're looking at work on paper, have your drawers ready or have the material ready that you want me to see. Don't be shifting for things at the last minute. Be prepared. Have some background material if there's been press releases on you, press, catalogs. Have that ready. Allow me to take it back so that I can look at it at my leisure. And then I would say, don't be aggressive saying, well, when is my show, or something like that. And I've had that. People are like, well, you come to my studio, when is my show? And that's not exactly the way it works. So be patient, know that I'll get back to you. Don't expect an immediate response. Sometimes I'll see work that I really like, and you'll probably be able to tell. But sometimes you'll see work that I'm just really interested in, but I have to absorb. And so I think that that's important. And know that I'm seeing a lot of work. I probably could fill, if I had the museum and I could change and do 200 exhibitions a year, I still would find some wonderful artists that I wouldn't have room for. So I try to do my best to incorporate as much as I can, but we are limited by our 4 walls. But it's always exciting. That's probably the best part of my job. I love going to studios, and it's really what I prefer to do every day.
Wow. Should artists be very hospitable and have provide something to eat if you're there a whole hour and a half? Is that expected or very nice to do?
Very nice, but they really don't have to. Maybe a cup of coffee or a glass of water is really all that's necessary. Not
right.
even that.
So don't prepare a feast.
No, don't prepare a feast. No.
And how do you feel about going in and seeing everything hung on the walls in a decorative style in their house? They say, well, come into the guest room, the living room, the dining room. It's all my work. Do you find that, though, very professional? Or I've heard that can be looked at by curators as a bit not done.
I've had the experience both ways. I think that artists who celebrate their work want to show it, and why shouldn't they show it in their home? I think it's fine. I've been into people's bedrooms. I've been into people's bathrooms, and there's amazing artwork in their bathroom, and that's fine. I don't. It doesn't bother me. I could see that some curators might not like that. It doesn't bother me in the least.
How about it being framed versus unframed?
Not a problem. Again, I'm so used to seeing work, pull out the drawers, and there's a stack of works on paper or things that are unframed that are put together. It's not a problem. I just don't like it when they have to say, well, I know I have a piece and it's in this rack, but I'm not sure which rack, and they're pulling out 20 different paintings and it's not the painting that they want to show me.
Yeah.
That to me I think is really be prepared. Just have you can stack your paintings up. You can just have them ready. I'd go down to basements to look at work. If it's a basement, I would prefer if it's not heated, not to do it in the winter. Because I was at a studio
Picky.
that it was so cold I couldn't even concentrate anymore, because it was in a basement, and I have no problem with it, but I was like, wait till the spring next time. Don't do that. But otherwise, I'm more than happy to look at work.
How do most artists feel about showing work that is in progress? I personally feel very uncomfortable doing that. I think either someone's going to say, oh, that's great, and you're not nearly finished with it, and you go, if it's great already, I'm going to lose my inspiration. Or someone will say, oh, that's sweet, or that's cute, and it's not at all what you're intending. You want something profound that moved them more than any other painting ever has, and that can ruin your inspiration. So I have found it's better not to show any of my work until it's completely done, and I regret it, like Bill says, showing it before it's done. But I'd be curious how you feel and how most artists handle that.
I think that I've gone to most studios where they have work that they want to show me. Oftentimes they'll have work that's either on the palette or they're working on their table, and I always do ask. I was like, so what's inspiration? I love to see the process. So I really kind of enjoy that, but I could understand completely, because if you really haven't worked something out completely, you really don't want to show it necessarily. But
it's kind of like meeting someone that's very important to you in your hair rollers, and you've got cold cream on your face, and it's not how you're going to present yourself later. So, but that's just me. Other people I know are very keen on that.
And I also sometimes will go to see a work, see their studio. They'll have a work in progress, and years later or a year later, I'll go back and the work will be finished. And it's interesting to see how it started out, what the momentum was. Has the momentum totally shifted? Was the artist going in a completely different direction? I try not to influence when I'm looking at work that's in progress, because that can happen. You can say, oh, and I'm always just asking, so, what inspired you to do this? And I think that sometimes someone gets nervous about that. But they shouldn't get nervous, because it's just, what moved you? I love to know that, what's behind it. I know about Bill's history, I know about Mary's, but you may not know about certain artists, and I love to get a little bit of their background information just to know, were they formally trained? Were they inspired by a trip? Were they inspired by something they saw at a museum show or a gallery show? Or just something they read? Because that I find fascinating, just on a personal level.
And I also always find it interesting when you look at the different art forms, how in other art forms, the performer or the artist is not so much judged by what they are doing in the last year, 6 months. They may have had a hit song, let's say if they're a composer or a lyricist, back in the 60s, like Sugar, da 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 da. And you meet that person and you go, wow, you wrote that. Artists, it's always, what are you doing now? Until they die. And then it's like, but as an artist, it's always what have you done for me lately, kind of. Do you have any comment about that? Am I the only one that thinks that way?
I think that's kind of true. I think that most artists that I go to, if I go to their studio and they're showing me a body of work, they're really most interested in what they're doing lately as well. And sometimes I may think that the earlier work was a little more interesting or a different.
I often do too, yeah.
So I think that sometimes can be challenging. And I think sometimes when an artist is creating something, they're so into it that they don't have that distance. They need to sometimes step back a little bit to really assess where that fits in their whole body of work, their whole oeuvre. And so I think that's a tricky situation. But I think artists tend to think, what am I doing lately? And a show like this, we ask for work within the last 5 years, so it
Yeah.
is, what are you doing lately? That
Yes.
is, and you're being judged on one particular piece, while the judge, usually, we try to get a judge who doesn't know their body of work, who's coming in, who really doesn't have preconceived ideas, which I think is really important. So they're coming in and they're judging what they see, which is challenging because you're looking at 350 plus works. But I think that is, that's the way it is for this particular show. And I think a lot of work shines. I would hate to be the judge for this show because I think it is a challenging one.
Yeah. And going back to the dilemma of being an artist, I was thinking how artists are also in a unique position of being asked extremely impolite questions by the public. If one is to meet a doctor, you don't say, "So, have you been doing a lot of work lately? A lot of surgery." "Did you do any surgery last week?" And then, "How much do you charge for a nose job?" But with artists, it's always, "How's the work going lately? Today, yesterday, and how much are you asking for your pieces?" People do not ask other professionals about that. Even a Broadway star, they don't say, "How much did you get for that?" And the whole public knows about the artist too. The prices are right here. And I know I saw the American Watercolor Show at the Salmagundi Club last week. And there was one painting there that didn't win an award for $20,000. Well worth it. Gary Akers, one of my favorite watercolorists. And most of the other work was $2,000 and $3,000. Many of those, because watercolor is like the jazz is to the music world. I always feel as a watercolorist that we are that to the painting world, because we could work for 6 months on a watercolor, and they'll say, "Oh, it's a watercolor. Was that the study?" The study for your oil. But anyway, the point I'm making is that price is so apparent, and then sometimes it has nothing to do with who's going to get the awards and the accolades. But then again, price for artists is usually earned. It's like real estate. It's what the, yes or no?
It's such a touchy thing, because I would have to say that there's some artists here who I think are such accomplished artists who've been working for a long time that maybe haven't gotten that recognition. Do I think their worth is worth $20,000? Yes, I really do. But unfortunately, they don't have a dealer, or they don't have the market to sell it at that price. Is some painting worth $1 million? Yes, some are. But it's so the art market is such a whole other world, and it's so difficult, because I think that all of this work warrants a great deal of respect and a great deal of support, and the economic support is one type of support. And someone's buying something, or you're selling it, it's your child, right? You're creating something. It's something that is of you, and I think it's very difficult to set a price, to release it to the public, someone to sell it to someone, so that it's no longer part of your possession. It's theirs, but it's what artists have to do to survive. It's a difficult thing. I think that just as photographs, unfortunately, don't yield as much money as paintings, and there's that hierarchy which should not exist anymore. It really shouldn't, because I think each artist puts tremendous care and energy, and certain artists, as we know, can mass produce their work because they have workshops and so on and so forth. And
I know de Kooning was selling a Xerox back when there were Xeroxes at the Ashwaubenon Invitational. And it was $7,500 for a little 8x10 Xerox, and someone bought it, of course, and so it is very subjective and earned over a lifetime. Going great.
Well, it's funny because, again, we do the clothesline art sale here, and I have to tell you that there's some amazing work that comes in even at the clothesline art sale, which is just a sale, not a museum show. And I think people who take the care to really look at the work and really judge the work themselves, that's what they should be doing, and not looking for the name, and not looking for some recognition. They should have something that inspires them. Looking at the work, it should speak to them. And when people say, "Well, what should I buy?" So buy what you like. Buy what you like. Buy what you want to live with. Have that painting on your wall, and have it become part of your home. I have my children. The artwork that I have up every time I get something new, they're like, no, don't take that down because it's part of our life. You know,
Yeah.
we've lived with that painting, and we're not going to take that Ray Farron down that we have in our kitchen
Oh.
because that's, you know, there's a beautiful
Ray
little Ray
Farron's
Farron
right
there.
there.
Yeah.
I noticed.
I'm lucky to have a beautiful Ray Farron
Ooh.
painting in my my kitchen, and I've had it there since the kids were little. And I bought something else, and I was going to move it. They were like, no, they want to be sitting at that kitchen table looking at that Ray Farron,
Yeah.
and it gives me great joy. So. Yeah, I said, no, I'm not going to change. I'm going to leave that. We'll find someplace else for this other work. But you have to buy and you have to live with art. You have to enjoy the art. And the monetary aspect, unfortunately, is a difficult one. And, you know, I feel for artists, but I think in this economic climate, it is hard. It's hard to sell art. It's
very
find lots of different venues, and whether you're selling out of a restaurant or a gallery or whatever you can do, I think more power.
Yeah, and now with all the technology, there are such fabulous, like, giclée prints and so forth. You can hardly tell the difference between the real thing and the print. But I have another question for you, as these artists are all, or many of them, are trying to develop their careers. How important do you feel it is to show in Manhattan compared to in the Hamptons? This is a touchy subject because as much as we all love the galleries out here and wish them well, there's a certain cachet to saying, I'm going to be in Manhattan, no matter where it is in Manhattan. And now Guildhall is a different category because you are in a major museum that shows, you know, Hockney, Picasso, Peyton, whoever, Julian Schnabel. But if you are in a local gallery showing your work, chances are it may not be seen by museums to further your career, is the impression I've been given. I don't know if this is true. Whereas Guildhall, yes, you could be seen. And yet, you may sell, but it may then be sequestered above someone's sofa in a summer home. So people think that New York, they may get discovered. Have I been informed correctly here?
I think that most people do feel that that is the case. That once you're, you know, there's wonderful galleries here, but you may not get as much exposure as you would get by showing in the New York City Gallery, whether it's in Soho or Chelsea or on the Upper East Side, wherever it will be, 57th Street. I think that more people probably will see your artwork in New York. I would say if you have a dealer who's willing to go that extra mile and to get your work into art fairs, I think art fairs are an amazing thing because, I mean, so many people, I mean, thousands of people are walking through. I've spoken to certain gallery people from out here and from the city, and they said that, you know, showing at an art fair, they can get 40,000 people to see, you know, the artwork in one day, you know. So over a weekend, that's 120,000 people that have seen, you know, your painting.
Yeah.
Is the likelihood, even at Guildhall, we may not get 120,000 people to see your work. So I think that exposure in a lot of these areas is beneficial to the artists. I think it's beneficial in getting them into a lot of museum shows as well, and connections that can be made through curators and all sorts of people, collectors, dealers, art critics. So I think it is important to get your work out there and exposed. And unfortunately, I think people who've sold out here and sold at their galleries in the city, sometimes when they have two galleries, a lot of people will come to see work at the gallery here, but want to buy from the city because they want the cachet at the city gallery. So that's very difficult for the galleries that are promoting work out here. So I feel for them. I really do.
And loyalty toward whatever gallery you go with is such a mistake so many artists make, I think. They need the money, and they will sell out of their studio for a lesser price, which I believe is sort of shooting yourself in the foot, because it's your market value, and hopefully if you value the dealer that has believed in your work and is promoting it, you give them that loyalty. And I know for myself, if I ever sell anything, I offer that commission to my dealer who has believed in me. And I know that artists, particularly out here, I think it gets very lax, and then we lose that system, which I'm not judging it. I'm not sure. I'm questioning the whole thing, especially in these economic times. It's a very difficult position for artists.
It is, but I think that the artists who are, the galleries that are promoting your work and taking the time to print your invitation, to professionally install your show, to market your show, to put ads in the local paper, to do the press releases, they're putting a lot of their time and effort, and I think for you to go and sell from your studio is really, it's a slap in the face.
Yeah, I believe that.
I know that people will say that they'll, because they can look up the artist's name and resume, and they'll try to buy something from the studio. Well, a lot of artists have said, no, well, you can either buy it from Guildhall or I'm going to put the money back to Guildhall because that's the price that I set. And again, it's an issue of respecting and having that professional relationship with someone. So I would never recommend for an artist to sell, but you want your gallery or your museum or whatever to be promoting your work in the best way that they can, too.
Right. It's like a mini marriage, and loyalty is everything. In the long run, you may have dry spells or they may go through a hard time, but you stick with each other and you work together. And especially if the dealer that you select also believes in your eye and what you're trying to do, it's an inspiration.
So important to have that relationship. And I think that when you're choosing to work with the dealer or to sign on with the dealer, you have to know that you're on that same wavelength. That what they're doing is they have the same ideas that you have. Do you want to be in gallery shows? Do you want to be in museum shows? Do you want to be in collections? These are all important venues that you have to follow and see and make sure that dealer knows collectors, knows museum curators, knows other dealers outside of the area that you're in. Perhaps dealers that are in Chicago or somewhere else where they could do joint ventures. That's a very important thing, so your work can be seen across the country.
Exactly. And if you're loyal to your dealer and you get an opportunity elsewhere, you say, well, why don't you two talk and work something out? Again, it's like also in sickness and in health. It's as women, we have to pause at times to bear children, to go through this or that, and hopefully, it's just an arrangement that works for both very well. If you take your career seriously, I think that's one of the most important key factors. Yeah. Great. So I think we have covered so much more than even this one wonderful show. We've kind of gotten into the whole, your viewpoint and this wonderful conversation about the viewpoint and being able to pick your brain here for us artists on your opinion and advice from another side. And I, on behalf of everyone who's been listening and watching, really appreciate it because I think everything you said is so valuable and so intelligent and from the heart. So obvious. Yeah. Thank you.
So much.
You're the best. And we're back again at Guildhall. I'm Michelle Murphy, and with me, of course, is Ruth Appelhoff, the Executive Director of Guildhall.
Hi,
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
To the Members Exhibition Day of Drop-Off.
Isn't this exciting?
Yeah.
It's really exciting. We're expecting 350 artists to be in this show. And I must say they come from all over Long Island, but mostly from our own community right here. So we are very, very proud of the great talent that we have in the area. And it is such a pleasure to be able to hang all of these great works of art here. It really is.
I had no idea that people could come from all over Long Island. Can they come from Manhattan and Connecticut and wherever?
Absolutely. You can come from anywhere as long as you are a member of Guildhall of East Hampton. That's the criteria. So if you're, if you happen to live in Connecticut, but you're a member, and I assume that most members come more than once to Guildhall over the year, then they're welcome.
That's so unusual. I bet there are very few other museums in the country that have such a policy. Am I right?
I'm sure
on that?
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
In fact, we think that we have the oldest non-juried exhibition in the country. This show is non-juried. Anyone can be in it as long as they're members. And of course, it builds a lot of allegiance for the area, for the art that's being done here. There's a lot of passion that gets involved with the works and with the organization of the show. And I must say, I would like to thank our assistant curator, Michelle Klein, who has done such a fantastic job talking to all 350 artists and encouraging them to be in the exhibition, and then, of course, executing it as she has.
She organizes the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is that her responsibility?
It is. It's a huge responsibility. Every artist has a couple of good questions, and so we really try to manage, in the best way possible, because of course it's our pleasure to kind of launch these artists into the next level of their career. And of course we are thrilled to not only exhibit the work, but we have a curator who comes in and looks at the work and chooses the best in show, which is then the one-person show at Guildhall. So it works beautifully.
Yes. And who chooses this curator?
Well, that's the staff, actually. Christina Strathfield, our museum director, and myself, and Michelle. We always are looking for people that have an expertise in the art world, that know when they see something good. I mean, they have to jury it based on one work of art. So you can imagine how very difficult that is. But they do know what they're doing, and we have had one great show after another come out of this exhibition.
You know, the way you just said that, that's utterly amazing to think of. That you could say, I want this painting over here, and then you call that person, you give them the show, and suppose they were to say, well, that's the first piece I've ever done. I never painted before, but okay. Yeah, has that ever happened?
No, it's never happened, and I think that is really an important point, that the curator, the juror for the exhibition, they have a trained eye, and when they see a work that they think should be the best in the show, you can be sure that there is a body of work behind that. But
Yes.
we've never had that one painting in the closet situation.
Right. Well, it's a little bit like reality TV and the singers that come on, and the judges. Usually, there's a lot of training behind them, right?
Right.
They're not just a one-note Johnny.
That's right.
Even though the public may or may not know about them. And is the juror allowed to know the name of the artist, or do you always have jurors that are not from this area, so they wouldn't know the artist?
Actually, we've done both. We've at times told the jurors who the artists are, and at other times not. I think our position now is that we don't tell them who the artists are, and then as a result, they're really choosing only from the work itself. And that seems to be the better tack to take. But and the jurors come from all over. I mean, our juror this year is Deborah Cohen from the Musée del Barrio. So, she's from New York City, but other times we have people from out here. Lisa Phillips, who's the head of the new museum, did it one year for us. And we're very fortunate. People step up and give us their time.
Well, I always tell Ruth that she has the ideal job. Every day it's something cultural, artistic, interesting, and you're in the hub of it. I think it's so... She always says that.
I know. I have the best job in the world. I know that.
She does.
There's opera going on as we're speaking.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And tonight we have a ballet on the stage.
Yes, Cinderella.
I know.
The children, the young people. My daughter's coming.
Oh, it's a joy to be affiliated with Guildhall in any way.
Yeah.
But believe me, to be the executive director is a dream come true.
And Ruth, I'll be back here in the midst of May, and we will discuss the upcoming season with you, as we do every year. And it's one of my favorite days of the entire year, is to come here and just salivate hearing about all you've been planning all year for all of us.
It's going to be one of our best seasons. Last year was fantastic. This year, I think we're playing on the success we had last year. I mean, there's dance, there's music, there's ballet, there's
Dick Cavett?
film. Dick Cavett is coming, and he's so adorable.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
both think he's adorable. I just interviewed him along with Ruth at your gala in the city, which was fantastic for the Lifetime Achievement Awards in the Arts. And he was saying that he thought he was doing something at Guildhall. He was very vague about it. I thought, well, anyone else would be rehearsing already. And he said, oh, yeah, I'll be doing something.
Well, I think he's going to do kind of a piece on stage referring to his new book, which is called Talk Show.
Yes.
It's just the best. If you haven't read it, do, because it is so clever. And of course, it's about all of the interviews that he did while he had his talk show.
Yeah.
And
And you know, I worked for him on that talk show.
great. Wow. Well, anyway, yeah, he'll be here. Colin Quinn will be here. Alec Baldwin will be back several times. He
Are you
won
doing that
awards.
film
Yes,
series?
we are. We're doing the summer documentaries again, so he'll be here a number of times, and all kinds of other amazing people.
Like Steve Martin,
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned Steve Martin.
July 2nd.
He's playing his banjo
Yes.
with the Steep Canyon band, and then
My brother is with him right now. He's his tour manager. They are in Las Vegas and LA this week.
yeah. Oh wow. Well, then I'm.
He has the second best job to you, my brother, hanging out with Steve Martin.
Yeah, I think Steve is an enormous talent. He writes books, he does music, he's of course a comedian, but he's so much more than that. We did a play by Steve Martin a couple of years ago here called The Picasso at La P-I-N-G. Beautiful play and very funny, but we're thrilled to have him here.
And you're having a gala afterwards, is it, or before, at one of your board members' homes, I believe, which is the place to be on July 2nd. Are you sold out yet?
We're sold out of the balcony seats.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
so you now have to buy a seat in the main theater, but we would
Save
love
up.
Yeah, we'd love to have everyone come. It's going to be thrilling.
I saw that show because of my brother in the city. He was at Joe's Pub, and I can tell everyone, you are in for such a treat. And he's such a serious musician, and on the other hand, he'll throw in a few jokes as well. But it's really seeing a different side of Steve Martin.
Now, and you know, the music is all such classical banjo, and really so lively and full of fun and joy, and he even wrote lyrics to a few of these pieces. So
I heard some of those. Did I hear that on his upcoming album, we're talking about Steve Martin, anyone who just tuned in, that Paul McCartney wrote one of the songs? Had you heard that?
No, I didn't.
Because he is our neighbor out here, and everyone's kind of buzzing. You may not know this. Is Paul going to be there? Is he going to get up on the stage? So as I said, mark your calendars, save your money, get your tickets, come to the gala party afterwards, and that's going to make your summer, right in the middle of 4th of July weekend, right, Ruth?
Absolutely.
To be continued.
Yes.
And we will meet in mid-May, and we'll talk about the entire season, kicking off with Memorial Day, although you've already got some things going already, as we know today with the members show and so forth.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Thank
Oh,
you very
always, always. It's a pleasure. Thanks for coming and taking away from your busy day with the opera.
much. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for coming to Guildhall.
Oh, I always love being here. Michelle Murphy, back again here at Guildhall with Michelle Klein. Tell me, when do you start planning all of this?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. So we start really in December, starting paperwork organizing. We then send out all the registration forms and everything starting in February, and then from February till now, we're in almost to May. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of
Really?
chaos. Yeah,
A lot. And do you work here full-time year-round?
I do. Yes.
And so this is this, would you say, your main focus of your year or something else?
No, it absolutely is my main focus throughout the entire year. So.
So you'll, when this is down, you'll get started on getting ready for the following year?
Yep, we'll get, little stuff settled, and then we'll again start off in the fall and the winter. Yeah.
That's huge, and you're carrying on such a tradition. It's been going on 73 years.
73 years. It's fantastic, and we're so excited and happy that we're still able to do this.
Yes, I know. Even in this economy, I'm sure many people would say, oh, you can't, every square inch here is real estate and time. How can you possibly do this?
Right.
But,
Absolutely.
but do you actually come away with a profit because you do sell a lot of work, and Guildhall, what is it, keep 50%?
We keep 40%.
Oh. Now that's a deal for artists, because usually it's 50-50 with the dealer and the artist. So Guildhall is very generous. Tell me a bit about your background. Are you an artist also, or an art historian, or how do you come by this?
Yeah, I'm more of an art historian. My background is in fine arts. Yep. With a concentration in modern contemporary art. So that's where I come from.
So your interest in modern art, is there any artist from out that you're particularly keen on, like de Kooning or Pollock or all of, Lee Krause? You have someone you really are into?
I think probably Jackson Pollock.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have a work of his in our permanent collection, and I've studied him all through college and then after my bachelor's. So I would say he's probably number one for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you must know Helen Harris, who runs
Absolutely.
the
yeah.
Pollock Krasner Foundation. And of course, being in his studio is amazing.
It's fantastic. Yeah. It's great.
Having that opportunity. I know when we first moved out here, my husband Robert Strada and I would go over their property because Lee Krasner died shortly. Lee Krasner was married to Pollock, died shortly after we moved here, and no one had done anything with the property. So it was all available, like to anybody, and it was quite magical to be just spending a Sunday. We would go over there every Sunday and just sit there. And then, of course, it got more commercial because it wasn't that same feeling of just being there and you feel like they just left. It's very magical. Yeah. These two little trees that grew up in front of the house anyway. About that. Tell me more about this show and what goes into it, if you wouldn't mind telling us.
Sure. So first we get started on just the regular paperwork. So getting our basic letter that we send to all of our members, getting our registration card, labels all printed up. After that, there's a mailing that goes out, and that's when everyone gets their registration packet in the mail, and it's the sign that members has started. Then from that point till probably mid-April is when registration starts, and that's a huge process. That is when our artists send in their registration card and their registration fee. If they're not a member, then they have to sign up to be a member. So it's a huge process of paperwork, which we love. But it is a lot, but it gets us excited every year. So then after that, it's actually my job then to process all that paperwork, to get it through the system, to create spreadsheets. Then with those spreadsheets, I can then check in all of the members when they come to drop off their artwork, which is happening today. So then after that, installation starts on Monday, and then from there, I create labels for every single piece. So this year, I don't have a final number, but we're definitely over 300. So I will be making over 300 labels of every single artist and making sure that their name is correct, that their medium is correct, that their title is there, that their price is there. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it for everybody. It's such a great exhibition.
Oh, yeah. You feel the excitement in the air.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you've had to turn a few folks down because they were a little bit over, right?
Unfortunately, that's the worst part of this entire process, is turning people away, unfortunately. But we have to have the rule, unfortunately.
You absolutely must. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. You are just lovely. I'm so glad I got this chance to meet you and to admire everything you do behind the scenes and then put that together with a person. So
Thank
congratulations to all of us for having you behind the scenes and making this happen. It's just phenomenal. I greatly admire the work you do. Thank you.